Good morning, evening, afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, feeling blessed and highly favored. It's Friday in the summer. It's bright and early. Had some time before work to record this little golden hour action in the car. Um, but yeah, like the hot topic of this week, of course, being the Shamrock Series uniforms with Notre Dame and Wisconsin. And I'm gonna give my thoughts, but I'm gonna start out by saying this: like, they're not bad uniforms at all by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think they look bad at all, honestly. But I do think it points to a bigger problem in college football, as a college football historian and writer, especially, in that I think that a lot of programs have trouble telling their histories in a way that's engaging and a way that is meaningful. Honestly, I guess meaningful and more than just a hand wave or going through the motions. So starting off with Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame, probably the most historic, most illustrious, most glamorized program in college football, whether you like it or not. Uh, there's a mystique, there's an aura, there's everything you want to say about Notre Dame is there, right? And with these uniforms, like, they're not bad uniforms. I love the gold numbers. I love the striping. The Green Bay Packers striping is a great touch, of course. I frankly enjoy when teams cosplay as pro teams and are playing in their venues. Like Mississippi State had a version of the Patriots uniforms in their colors when they played at Gillette Stadium against UMass. I thought it was really cool. It was a little bit corny, but I thought it was cool, right? So I like what Notre Dame did with that, but there's just so many elements of this story that Notre Dame is missing and that they could have told better, right? And so first off, of course, the Packers and Notre Dame, Curly Lambeau, they hit that on the head. The Acme Packers color is great. Paul Horning, though, their homage to Paul Horning leaves a lot to be desired, because they said the numbers were the homage to Paul Horning, the Horning era, the mesh numbers. I don't think any teams in the 60s, certainly not Vince Lombardi's Packers, were wearing mesh numbers in that time. So I don't see where that is. Paul Horning, when he played at Notre Dame, as far as I know, they wore not only green jerseys but white numbers, and the number style that they have that on that uniform doesn't really match. Like, the font, the sizing doesn't really match what Paul Horning wore. Um, I mean, I guess the little mesh numbers with the Green Bay Packers shaped logo is a nice touch because they are playing at Lambeau Field. But with Horning, like, there's just so much to be desired there. I mean, everyone knows that iconic picture of him in the green jersey, in the cheddar gold pants. Like, at least wear the cheddar gold pants, right? At least wear the pants in the era. And along with that too, a lot of people are overlooking the fact that in 1964, the Era Parsegian era began in Wisconsin, against Wisconsin, and that's another thread that they could have gone with. And not only on top of that, John Hewart, the 1964 Heisman winner, began his season against Wisconsin that year in 1964. I know I said 1964 like three times in the last 30 seconds. I'm sorry, this is off the cuff, off the script before work, but that's another thread they could have gone there too. And I know I sound like a broken record. Like, last year, I called for Joe Theismann era uniforms, or not last year, 2024. I called for Joe Theismann era uniforms instead of playing against Army at Yankee Stadium. And I guess I'm just a really big fan of the Era Parsegian tenure, his era there. But like, that's another thing they could have gone there with, like, white numbers. I just think that just the mention of Paul Horning is not good enough. Honestly, they don't really tell the story accurately. There's not really that connection there, and I think it's sad because with the program, with the history of Notre Dame, it's obvious. I respect them for wanting to tell these stories, but they're just going through the motions in telling these stories. And I don't think they're telling them well. And I think it's worth the next generation knowing who guys like Paul Horning, guys like John Hewart are. Even Angelo Bertelli could have been a thread. And I mean, I'm going to go on and on. Angelo Bertelli scored a touchdown against Wisconsin in 1943. And I bring this up all these past games because this isn't a common series. I think Wisconsin and Notre Dame have only met about 15 times in the past. And from 1965 to 2020, they didn't meet at all. So 5+ decades, they didn't meet at all. So this is a rare clash between two of the Midwest's most successful programs. So let's celebrate, right? Going on to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I guess I have a little bit more feelings with that. They're trying to tell stories. I'm going to begin with the helmet. If you wanted a red helmet, I would have just inverted the Ron Vanderkellen era uniforms. Um, with the W on the front of the helmet, because in 1962, that famed Rose Bowl team, Notre Dame played Wisconsin. Like Wisconsin beat Notre Dame, I should say. And so if they wanted a red helmet, I would have just inverted those. That's a new, different look. That's honestly one of the more iconic looks in Wisconsin history, I think, because it's just so unique. The helmet logo on the front. And when it was brought back in 2005, like Brian Calhoun had one of the greatest rushing games in a program that's has a bevy of iconic running backs in their history. So sorry for rambling, but also too, like on the Wisconsin side, there's just so much iconic history. And I bought this book at a flea market almost 10 years ago, fall of 2017, a weekend flea market at Highland Falls when my parents were visiting, or when my mom was visiting in August for my new cadet, I guess, graduation when I graduated this summer. But it's called On Wisconsin Badger Football by Oliver E. Kukla, Kukl, and Jim Mott. But there's an iconic game in this series that I mentioned, right? They haven't met much, but there's an iconic game, and everyone loves storytelling in college football. And so on page 111 of this book, it starts: the victory over Notre Dame in 1928 has gone down in Wisconsin history as the victory in tall grass. At least Newt Rockne of Notre Dame called it that. Arriving in Madison the day before the game, Rockne immediately took his team to the stadium for a workout. When he saw the length of the grass, he commented, half jestingly, "What is Glenn trying to do? Lose us in the grass? Get it cut." Thistlethwaite refused to let it be cut, however, and a fuming Rockne took his team to a large meeting room at the Park Hotel for signal practice. The tall grass had little to do with the Notre Dame defeat the next day, however, for this was not one of the Fighting Irish's better teams. And so here you have an iconic game in this series, the victory in tall grass, where Notre Dame loses to Wisconsin. I think 23-6. The score isn't in here. I got to find the score. I looked at it. Okay, in 22-6. So you have the victory in tall grass. Like if I'm Wisconsin, I'm telling that story. I'm reinvigorating the fan base. I mean, sometimes to move forward from one of the worst stretches of Wisconsin football, you have to look back. Look back on the good times. Know where you came from. I would have retold this story. I would have done tall grass accents on the side, mentioning the victory in tall grass. And and again, I think going back to the red helmet too. Like the Rose Bowl is great. I absolutely adore and love the Rose Bowl. But to pull out a Rose Bowl helmet in Wisconsin or at Lambeau Field, especially when you have a conference mate that plays home games in the Rose Bowl, I really think that's just lame, lazy. It's lame, and I think that's kind of like a summary of what I feel like these uniforms are. They're lazy attempts at saying, "Hey, we care about our history. You know, we're paying homage to our history, but also buy these $100 replicas because it's another jersey for you to wear." So that's it. Honestly, I hope you enjoyed me reading. Let me know if you want more book reads on in my videos, my audio. But until next time, everyone, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Peace, love, and soul. The Burger Popper, and the Lord bless you. Lord keep you. Make His face shine upon you, and be gracious to you today.